retiring at the end of March, and John O'Donnell will be the new president and CEO of Pinnacle. Phil is leaving a legacy that includes incredible advocacy for work-based apprentices in Colorado. Thank you, Phil and John, for both being here today. In a minute, we'll hear from Pinnacle's Chief Human Resources Officer and VP of Employee Services, Tim Johnson. Tim has over 30 years of experience in global human resources and plays a large role in Pinnacle's diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. After Tim, you'll get to hear firsthand from one of CareerWise's apprentices, Gabrielle Davis, who is Logistics Management Apprentice at McKinsey & Company here in Denver. So welcome again to the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce on behalf of our members and investors who employ some 400,000 Coloradans. We're delighted to have you for this critical discussion about the NextGen Workforce. Now I'm pleased to turn over the podium to Tim Johnson, Chief Human Resources Officer and Vice President of Employee Services at Pinnacle Assurance, followed by Gabrielle Davis from McKinsey & Company. Welcome, Tim.
Before I get started, I want to introduce Mark Tappy and Julie Wims. They built the program. I'm a beneficiary of our apprenticeship-like program. As a teenager, I had the opportunity to work as a co-op student at a time when I had no clue as to what I wanted to do. I started out thinking I was going to be an engineer. I started out in the engineering department. And my last assignment was in human resources. And that's when I discovered my true passion. Fast forward to today, I'm the Chief Human Resources Officer. Back then, I had no clue what human resources was about. And I think for a lot of our youth, it's the same for them. They don't know what they want to do. Some are lucky enough to have a passion or have some insights into what they want to do. But the apprenticeship program, that's really what it's about. It's about helping our young adults discover themselves. I want to take you back in time a little bit. So it's not about me today. It's about CareerWise. CareerWise, and also the work that Bill Kalin and Senator Hickenlooper did back in 2017. They were the brain trust behind the apprenticeship program. Today we have 25 to 30 students participating in the apprenticeship program. What's the return on investment? Today we save between $4,500 and $25,000 per student. That's real money. And if you're like me, I'm in a profession of recruiting talent. It is hard to find talent. So if you're not out looking for that talent, we'll take it. Tell you a little bit about our apprenticeship program. It's a 2 to 3 year program. They work in key functions like insurance ops, technical space, technology. We pay them a competitive wage. They get a chance to participate in our benefit program. And as was stated, it represents 5% of our population, our workforce. There's social good as well. Probably most important, the apprenticeship opportunities transform individuals' lives. It did for me. It's doing the same thing for the apprentices that are in this room. Nar IE, who's here, she's an apprentice. She's been hired as a business representative. She also testified in the Senate at the Health Committee. Imagine doing that as a high schooler. That's pretty awesome. One of our top software developers is a former apprentice. When I say one of our top, literally one of our top software developers. So if you need technical talent, it's out there. If you're not after them, we'll take it. The apprenticeship program provides multiple opportunities. All the different assignments they get, they find themselves, but more importantly, you find talent. We give you a little bit more insight. College is not for everyone. Some go through the apprenticeship program and do go to college. Some go through the apprenticeship program and leverage our tuition reimbursement to pay for themselves to go to college. Others go through the apprenticeship program and we employ them. Those are all wins, all wins. But let me close with, we have a generation of individuals who have been impacted by COVID. It's our future talent. Now's the time to invest in them. However, the apprenticeship program does require a long-term commitment. If you commit to the program, it'll be like it is for us, it will be a vital part of your talent acquisition strategy. It is for us. Every year we bring up more students and we employ students that graduated off the program. But there's some good news. You do not have to go it alone. CareerWise will help you build a program. Start small and then grow it. That's been the key to our success. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was lovely hearing from you, Tim. Good morning. I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Gabrielle Davis, and I use she, her, and her pronouns. I'm a location management apprentice at McKinsey & Company. About a year ago, I applied for a few apprenticeship opportunities through CareerWise. One of CareerWise's customer success managers, Natalie, helped me navigate the system and practice my interviewing skills. Afterwards, I interviewed with McKinsey & Company, and it just felt right. When I heard that I was being considered as a candidate for the McKinsey & Company position, I was shocked. And the moment I found out I got the job, I was overwhelmed with excitement. You see, I was not expecting to get a job during the pandemic, especially one as transformative as a position at McKinsey & Company. I almost cried when I got the job offer, because it was more than a job. It was an opportunity for a tangible future and professional growth. CareerWise gave me an equitable and a rare chance for this growth, and McKinsey & Company has helped me to fulfill it over the past year. As the first apprentice and youngest worker in my company, I was a bit anxious to start, but my nerves were quickly eased by meeting my amiable and engaging coworkers. The first few weeks, I spent time immersed in trainings on communication, workplace rules, safety, equality, and diversity. From these trainings and personal experience, I was learning professional skills such as self-advocacy, problem solving, work ethic, and more. Without this apprenticeship, I may not have gained these skills for years. Today, I am able to attend Regis University with less financial stress while building a strong resume for my future. As an apprentice, I am able to learn from my colleagues in an environment that fosters personal and professional growth, promotes inclusion, and supports diverse ideas. At my company, we like to say, make your own McKinsey, meaning that you're valued as an individual to make the experience in the company your own. I'm unbelievably grateful to be able to be part of the team, and I truly feel like I've been able to start making my own McKinsey. Just a few months after I started, I was given the opportunity to work with the Black Leadership Academy at McKinsey & Company. The Black Leadership Academy has enrolled over 500 organizations to expand capabilities, improve their company pipeline, and network. Although I did learn new skills in data collection and spreadsheets, I was most impacted to see from my own eyes the commitment to equity in the workplace being put into action. Many people my age are continuously searching for a path to set them up for their future career. But I've gained that through skills in diversity, equity, and inclusion, communications, and more. I'd encourage every company to hire a youth apprentice. Not only does it benefit the life of the person hired, but it also continues to boost the legacy of success for the company itself. The opportunity provides equitable support in our society to young people like me, diversifies the production of ideas, and bolsters consumer validation. At just 19 years old, my apprenticeship has already allowed me to make my mark on the world, and I hope that more apprenticeship opportunities become available for youth like me to do the same. I'm now honored to introduce the founder and CEO of CareerWise, Noel Ginsberg. He is an entrepreneur and nonprofit leader who has long been committed to serving his community. Noel is also the chairman and CEO of Bennet, a custom plastics business that manufactures products for the consumer, industrial, and medical device markets. Noel was recently nominated by Secretary Walsh to the U.S. Department of Labor's Advisory Committee on Apprenticeship, where he is elected industry co-chair, and is working on how to better utilize apprenticeship to provide equitable career pathways. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. I always like starting with apprentices because traditionally you wouldn't think that a high school student or a graduate is someone that could be practically valuable within your business, not as an intern looking over the shoulder of your team, but actually to be practical members of that team contributing to the business. And Gabby, you're a great spokesperson, as you were an RE at the Senate Help Committee. JJ, I want to thank you. There's a reason we're here at the Chamber. We've now completed 4 years, which was initially our pilot. We thought we would figure out how this all worked and then began to expand, because when I started CareerWise, it wasn't just intended to be a Colorado initiative. It was meant ultimately to be shared out. And over the last 4 years, we are now in 6 different states, with cities like New York City to small communities like Elkhart, Indiana. Youth apprenticeship is a transformational strategy, but if it's not for business, it will only be a good idea or a nice program that serves a few young people and serves a business. In my own company, Intertech Plastics, we have an apprentice that designed, engineered, built, programmed, and launched automation cells that enabled us to bring product back from China. Imagine that, a high school student. So the Chamber represents business. You represent opportunity. I sit on this board, and I've been so impressed over the years with what the Chamber is able to do. And now, under your leadership, JJ, our hope is that we can catalyze industry, not on a small scale, but on a large scale. Because without that, again, we just won't have the opportunity for our young people that is so critical. Tim, you talked about something at Pinnacle that is so important, and what struck me when I first went to Switzerland to learn about this model 5 years ago, 6 years ago, is that there is an ROI for business. There's a reason that 70% of all young people in Switzerland participate in apprenticeships. There's a reason why all 40% of all businesses host apprentices, with numbers as high as 10% of their workforce. And why? Swisscom told us they do it because it brings innovation to their business. Young people think differently. So thank you, JJ. Thank you, Tim, for highlighting what is so important. Yes, this is transformational for the young people. It is also transformational for the businesses that choose the leadership role that you did, Phil. Because I remember when we first talked, you said, well, I think we could only take 1 or 2 because you have to have a college degree to work at Pinnacle. And I asked you why, and being the thoughtful leader you are, you said, you know, I have no clue. Because in fact, we have people that I know don't have degrees. So this can work in all businesses. We think of apprenticeships historically as just in the trades, and it's a powerful tool that needs to grow within that trades. But in the new economy, in tech, in insurance, in marketing, advanced manufacturing, it fits well in banking. Sean, you've been a leader here in Colorado with your banks, leading what it means to bring apprentices into your business and making a real difference. So we are here. There's a real reason, and it is to get businesses to sign up, to be involved, and not just to take 1 or 2 and say, I checked the box, we're participating, but to say, you know, we're going to strive for what Pinnacle was able to do, to have 5% of our workforce as youth apprentices, to help build our future economy here in Colorado. And now with the representatives that we have, you know, at the state with you, Governor, and the federal level with our senators, and now with you, Secretary, this is a powerful panel and one that I'm honored to be able to be a part of. CareerWise, you heard basically how it works. But essentially, students either start in their junior or senior year. They spend 2 to 3 years earning an apprenticeship wage. In their first year, spending 2 days a week in a business, second year, 3 days in a business, and then in their final year, up to full-time. And they're intended to be contributing members of your business, to take the workload off of your existing employees, to do the skills that will be valuable to them to learn, and then ultimately, as you're hearing, for those apprentices like Naari who are hired, to be part of your future team. CareerWise has built the tech platform. We have the team that will support your HR department to ensure that, in fact, this works for your business. Because if it doesn't work for your business, it doesn't work for the young people. So with that, I'm going to transition to the panel. And I want to start with you, Senator Hickenlooper, because in many ways, you were the ignition source. When I called you and said, what would you think about going to Switzerland, halfway around the world, and bringing 48 of our business leaders, foundation heads, superintendents of public schools, superintendent of one of our schools, you said yes. I'm curious now that it's been so much a part of when you were governor and now in your current role in the Senate. What struck you that made you say, this is something I need to put my effort behind?
Turn this thing on. Is that on? Does anybody hear me?
Yep.
But I can barely hear myself. Well, largely, no. I have always been so impressed with the way you ran your business and your work with the Colorado. I have a Dream Foundation, so that brought me to it. And I was aware at that point that roughly 70% of our kids don't get a 4-year degree, and yet we've done nothing but make them feel somehow diminished. As you laid it out to me, and I'll give you credit as a very persuasive advocate, I hadn't seen anything that had the potential to be such a big deal, a true game changer in my 8 years as a mayor, and at that point I think I'd been 4.5 years or 5 years as a governor. And I knew that I would be around when, as it began to lift off, and that others would be able to put in, like Governor Polis, be able to provide the energy and the momentum to really make it a national thing. But I remember talking to Joe Garcia's here, had just left as lieutenant governor, and we spent some time looking at, and we eventually looked at over 20,000 jobs, state jobs, asking the question: do you really need a college degree for this? Can we begin to transition the state workforce into, who does need a college degree, who doesn't? And as you said to me, I remember this vividly, you said it's about choices. If you give young people opportunity and choices, they're gonna work harder, they're gonna be happier, they're gonna be more comfortable in their circumstances. And Joe went on to run community colleges for the state, and all the different facets that can tie into making an apprenticeship program really work. So in 8 years as a mayor, 8 years as a governor, only once ever did I spend a whole week on one task. To be honest, I count on my hand the times I ever spent a full day on one task. You're just that divided, and yet this was that important.
Thank you, and I can't thank you enough for that initial willingness to do that, because I don't think, frankly, I could have got 40 people on a bus halfway across the world to do this, but your leadership then and now in the Senate, I think, will help bring this forward, so I really, really appreciate it.
The other thing I should have also said is that I had the benefit of a U.S. Senator in the office at that point, Michael Bennet, who had been superintendent of schools at DPS, and I had heard firsthand the challenges and all the complexity that was there, and this seemed like an allied effort.
I did not get to go to Switzerland.
We're still trying. Secretary Walsh, I had the opportunity a few years ago, while you were still mayor, actually, of Boston, to see what you were doing and leading within workforce, how you engage business in something very similar to apprenticeship. So I'd love to hear from you what your experience was, both in Boston and how you see that translating on the national level.
No, thank you for having me today. And when I became mayor of Boston, we had a very robust summer job program, and we were thinking about how to expand the program. And part of it was summer jobs, and part of it was apprenticeships, and part of it was workforce development and internships. And I'll tell you one quick story. I was talking to Vertex Pharmaceutical, and they were hiring college interns, and they weren't hiring high school kids. And I had a conversation with them. I said, you need to really bring out some high school kids. I said, because there's an opportunity. Oh, we traditionally haven't done it. It doesn't fit in our work model. It's not going to work. High school kids are just not ready for this. And I wouldn't say begrudgingly, but Jeff lied and said, okay, we'll take some kids on. And what he said was, after the first cohort of kids going in, the young people, he said, these high school kids are better than college kids because they want to learn, and they don't have predetermined notions on what they want to do, and it really opens up their ideas. And on top of that, the employees of the company benefited the most. And I saw it time and time again, even in City Hall, where I had a young person who was a college intern that came into my office, worked as a college intern, and now she's down here, not here, she's in Washington with me, working on policy, and she was able to work through the process. And when I became the Secretary of Labor, obviously, I became Secretary of Labor during COVID time, and every month I'm in front of the TV trying to explain why there's a worker shortage and why people aren't coming back to work, and I'm running out of excuses why it's happening now. And I'm thinking we got to shift that dynamic now to what are we doing about it? And really, it's going to be about apprenticeships. It's about changing a culture. It's about creating an opportunity. I mean, we're here today. I don't think it's any secret why we're here today. We're in front of the business community because you have the jobs. And you have the opportunity to work with the governor and the senator and the mayors and people in the state to really change the culture inside your companies and create pathways. The reason why the building trades have been so successful is that they have a model, an apprenticeship model. You go, you sign up, and the building trades invest and the companies invest in training workers. And after 3 or 4 years, you become a journey person. And then you become part of the company. And the company is successful because of the educational opportunities inside that model. There's really no other model that's consistent like that in the country other than in the construction field. But there's no reason why the business community can't, you saw it with the insurance company, why you can't do that model. I guarantee you, as we continue to build these platforms, and I want to thank Noel as well for being on our apprentice board, we are going to change the way apprenticeships are in this country. We're going to need you to help us. And with the worker shortages and the opportunities and the competition for workers, the best way you can end the competition is by getting young people in the front door when they were junior in high school, because now they're yours. And there's an opportunity for you to be able to train them and educate them and help them become part of the culture of your company. So when they graduate high school and maybe go on to college or while they're going to college, you have an opportunity to have them part of your system. And that's a successful model, and it's worked. And I would just suggest, and I'm not here for this reason, but I suggest the companies in this room that came in this room today to fill the seat, and you weren't quite sure what was going to come and you're going to leave here in a little while. Think about this. Think about the opportunity. We met with, the governor and the senators and myself met with about 10 young people who are in the room here. They're high school kids, except for one. They're high school students. But if you didn't know that, you heard them talk about their opportunity and what they've learned in business, you would think that they're young career people working for companies. And there's amazing, and they're here today. Maybe you probably know, raise your hand, the apprentices that we're in the room with. Just if you get a chance, talk to one of these young people, grab them on the way out the door. I'm going to end with this. We do plan on, and my team at the Department of Labor, we're working on changing the way we do apprenticeships. We need to make sure that we're preparing kids for the future. Because what we've learned in this country over the last 20 years, we have such an emphasis on college, which is nothing wrong with that, but we have such a shortage in so many different places. So we have to think differently outside the box. So thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. Governor Polis, you've been an innovator from the time I think you were born. In the businesses that you created that were widely successful. But beyond that, you took that experience and in the various elected offices that you've held, there's always been this connection between education and business, knowing that at the end of the day, if we don't create good jobs, we don't have opportunities. And so when we sat down and talked about what education could look like here and the role business would play and the innovation that would be necessary, you created a position within your office around education and innovation. And I was wondering if you could share what your vision of that office is and what you would like it to accomplish together with our business community going forward. What's your vision?
Thank you, Noel. And you know, this movement in Colorado on really leading our apprenticeships is one of the balls in the air that we inherited from the Hickenlooper administration. It was already going. We just had to keep it going. And there's a reason that you have both senators, your governor, your Secretary of Labor here today, it's because we think this is a really good idea. And we want all of you to look at how you can utilize this in your businesses. We have a Office of Innovation and Education. Misty's here. Where's Misty? Who runs that. She has several people under her, which is really the state nexus for all things workforce and apprenticeship related. So of course, CareerWise, really the most significant effort around high school. We have many community colleges, and Joe Garcia is here, the head of the community college system, that also are looking at this kind of model. And then you have some county workforce centers, including Denver, that are on the adult side. But I think what's most exciting about the high school side is the interface and excitement from the school district side, from the site leaders and principals. And with the interest and investment of the business community, it's truly a scalable model. And I think that, I was mentioning this to Noel earlier, I think that the time is right more than ever before because of the workforce shortage. It was a nice to have thing 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's quickly become a must have where you can access and unlock additional talent for your business, significantly bolster your pipeline, and as you said, the sort of best practices, upwards of 5% of your workforce can in fact be apprentices doing great work. So our vision from the state level is to support this work at the high school level and CareerWise, the community college level, the county workforce center level, to really be part of reinventing what the future of lifelong learning and work look like in Colorado with a skills-based economy that benefits both workers and employers.
Thanks, Governor. In the video, there was one of the speakers said that, and he was from CYP, which is their banking training system in Switzerland. He said you can start with an apprenticeship and end with a PhD. So the question I have from your perspective, how can apprenticeships break down the barriers to enable more students to go and take advantage of post-secondary while at the same time being very career aligned? Right now, there's inequities in all of our communities. How can apprenticeships specifically help that and in the post-secondary level?
So let me, first of all, Jamie, wherever you are, thank you for having us all here. It is so nice to be in a room full of people, not just looking at little squares on a computer. It brings tears to my eyes. So thanks for being here. You're making my day. I really appreciate it. And I really believe this might be the most important conversation any of us has this year, today. For the reason that Noel said. You know, we have people all over our state who live in rural school districts, who are in urban school districts, kids who have the intellectual capacity to do anything that anybody in this room is doing, but don't have the good fortune to have a system that's aligned with setting them up for success. And they're fighting through barriers on their own that are deeply unfair. No kid in America should have to do it. And the country needs the talent of this workforce if we're going to succeed. You know, this state, I've now been representing in the Senate for, I think, 12 years. It's hard to believe. And everywhere I go, what I hear from people is we're killing ourselves. We're working really hard. But no matter what we do, we can't afford some combination of housing, of healthcare, of higher education, of early childhood education. And what it starts to feel like is a sense of a lack of opportunity in one of the most dynamic economies in the country. And we've got this, the Secretary knows this, all over the United States of America, in a country where for 50 years, the benefits of the economy have been accruing to the wealthiest people, and 90% of the American people, until very, very recently, had not seen a pay increase. And I think when you go visit Pinnacle, you know, and you meet the people that are there, the commitment that Phil has made, it's amazing to sit there and listen to high school kids tell you about what reinsurance is. I'll bet 80% of people in this room don't know what reinsurance is. And the high school kids that work there can explain it. I had one young person there who said that if they hadn't been in this program, that the only way they would have seen the inside of an office building like the one they were in was if they had gone there with their mom when she went to clean the building. And now she has a completely different view of what her possibilities are, of what her potential is. And that's what we have to find a way to cultivate. I can tell you that, my view, having been the superintendent of Denver Public Schools with Alex today, who's the superintendent now of the Denver Public Schools, is that no kid should be graduating from high school in the state of Colorado without the skills to earn a living wage. Not the minimum wage. That's not a success for us. Without the skills to earn a living wage. And then to answer your question, Noel, they are then in a position to make a decision about whether that's what the path they want to be on, or whether that path is going to take them to a PhD. We met with your sister, I think, in Washington, D.C. when you came to testify on the health committee, and she said she wished that she had had something like CareerWise, because when she made the decision to go into her field, I think it was criminal justice, that she didn't know what her options were, and that she had spent 10 years, on that path, instead of on the path that you're on, which is a path that says, I'm going to go work at Pinnacle for a while, but then I'm going to go to school and get that degree and head to that PhD. And I believe, and I'll stop here, I believe that if you are looking for an opportunity to transform the American economy, and you are looking for an opportunity to transform the lives of millions of Americans and bring this country back together again, this is the way to do it. And I don't see why there's any reason why Colorado and Denver can't lead all 50 states in this effort. I hope we will, because we've got the potential here to do it. We have the business community here to do it. We have the imagination to do it, and we should do it, and we have to do it, because there is no other path through this. One last point. This does not make any sense unless the people that are educating our kids understand what you will pay people a living wage to do, and then allow us to align our curriculum and what we're doing to be able to get that result. So thanks for being here today. Thanks.
Senator Hickenlooper, I can tell you the day I learned that you were going to be chairing the subcommittee on health that would include a focus on apprenticeship, I had a really big smile on my face. And then when you asked for Natalie and I to come and testify, I got really nervous never doing that. I don't think you were that nervous. I was quite impressed. I'm curious, as chair of that committee, and what was also impressive is the bipartisan nature of that committee. Senator Braun from Indiana was as engaged as anyone. And that actually is so unique about apprenticeship. It's not about politics, it's about bipartisanship. I'm curious what your vision is as the chair of that committee of what it means on a national basis and how that committee can help grow apprenticeship in our country.
So, first, nice to see you again, and thank you so much. This young woman was spectacular. I cannot even begin to say how poised and how graceful and good stage for a young person to be on, and she handled it perfectly. I agree with everything that Michael said in the sense that we have to do this, and I just want to start, and I'll finish my little paragraph by saying that this is really about you guys, the business community stepping up, because now we understand what the pros and cons are and all of it. I'll add another incentive, which everyone should care about, is it is one of the very few things in the Senate where we can get real bipartisan support, where you've got Republicans and Democrats. And when Secretary Walsh, he came and we had a discussion on a Zoom, and then he gave testimony on his confirmation process. And one of the things that was so exciting was that he was all about Republicans, Democrats, bringing everybody together and addressing this part of the challenge in a way that didn't have anything to do with partisan politics. It was going to be about solving a problem that this country faces. And when we went to Switzerland, and they told us that the former, or I guess he was just leaving, as CEO of UBS, United Bank of Switzerland, largest bank in Europe, and he started out as an apprenticeship, didn't get his college degree until he was 26. And it is about those choices. And I think, having the senator from Indiana, Mike Braun, as my ranking member on this, I think of it as the apprenticeship committee, even though it really is the workforce and employment safety subcommittee. But we sat down, Senator Braun and I, and we were supposed to have a 15-minute meeting. We spoke for an hour and a half about all the things we could do, and just got each other more and more excited. And as I kind of discussed this with more people in the Senate, there is an almost universal appetite to take this on and provide the support that someone like Secretary Walsh needs. He's ready, but he needs the Senate and the House to really step up and do it, and I think we will. And one way, literally the last kind of obstacle, is we really need to get the business community to really step up and demonstrate and talk about and act on the obvious potential for success, to embrace this program and get to work. Because then all of a sudden, it's like anything. It takes forever to get started, and there's just so many challenges that I give. The persistence and grit that Noel's brought to this is breathtaking. But once it begins to go, if we all put our shoulder to it, it can go very, very fast.
Thanks, Senator. Secretary Walsh, as you know, registered apprenticeship in this country currently does not represent the makeup of the American workforce, either in gender or race. How do you see specifically youth apprenticeship bending that curve in the right direction?
Well, first of all, I was with the president about 2 weeks ago, and we were in the office talking. I was in his office talking about what are we doing for workforce development, what are we doing to get more young people back in, and how are we making sure, the question was, what he specifically said, how do we make sure it's equitable? And I talked to him about what we're doing with our apprentice program, working with states and cities across the country, working with the delegations to talk about getting more investments in these spaces. But when you look at when I asked the young people in this room to raise their hands, it was a diverse group of young people. And it really is about getting into the public school. It's about creating pathways in the public school for all across America. Not the elite private schools, the public schools. Because those young people are the ones, as the Senator mentioned, the young person that was working in an office, that her mother was cleaning the office. That was my experience as a young person. My parents were immigrants. There's a lot of immigrants in this country that, my father didn't put a suit and tie on except it was going to a wedding or a wake. And I think that it's really important for us to really focus on our school districts in the country. You have Denver Public Schools here today. You have community college as well here today. Focus in those different areas to create pathways. That's the way we do it. And if we get into our public schools, we'll be able to create pathways and opportunities. There are millions of young people in America right now that are in our high schools all across America that have no idea what their future holds. They have no idea what they want to do. They're not thinking about becoming a banker. They're not thinking about working in the tech industry. They're not thinking about being in the insurance industry. They're not thinking about those opportunities. And when you create that pathway, when a company reaches out and opens the door for them, that opens the door for a whole new realm of possibilities in those kids. And so I think that, diversity will come if you work through the school districts, if you work through your organization and organizations like this around the country. And I agree with the senators all said this, all the companies in this country, you don't have a bench. And you're fighting each other for talent. And the way you can create that bench is by going to high school and creating opportunities. That's your bench. And that opportunity to allow that succession to your company is absolutely amazing. I told the young people in the back, I'll end with this, when I went to college, I didn't go the traditional route. I went to Clinton Junior College for a year. I went to 4-year college after that for a semester. I quit school. I went to work construction. I went to work in an office. And I ended up going back to school late in life, and I got my degree when I was 40 years old at Boston College. Just at night, going to night, I told the young people in the room, take a class here or there because it's important to keep that college degree going. But the experience I learned was working on the job site, was working in the fund office, was working in opportunities that were in front of me. It wasn't an apprentice, it was a job, but it was like an apprenticeship. If I had been exposed to a company as a younger person that might have changed the trajectory of my life.
Thank you. Governor Polis, you served as governor during probably one of the most challenging times in our country's history. And as we look forward, as the great resignation has taken place, and now it's how do we rebuild our workforce? How do we create opportunities for young people? What's your vision in terms of businesses' role in this work, the role of youth apprenticeship and apprenticeship in general as it relates to the state and the engagement with business?
Well, certainly, as I'm sure you've all noticed as employers, it's definitely a seller's market for labor. That's good for workers, difficult for businesses. But what that means is businesses really need to step up their game about how they think about HR. It's everything from, of course, like many businesses, figuring out what are we doing around the ability to telecommute or come in a couple days a week and be flexible and those kinds of things. Wages obviously matter. But it also means these kinds of partnerships that can lead to meeting the needs of your company. So as I said before, what was a good thing to have 2 years ago is now a necessity. Your business really needs to engage with CareerWise and apprenticeships because the HR situation has gotten very, very challenging to attract and retain the folks in your company. Not only does it fill holes today where folks are doing work, but you're building your talent pipeline for tomorrow that can go all the way up the ladder. These kinds of partnerships are incredibly important in this sort of COVID, post-COVID era, which has really changed the nature of the workforce. There's just been a lot of folks who have mid-career shifted, changed, opportunities to enter new careers, a lot of movement in the labor force. And that's something that'll either work against you or you can make it work with you. And as a employer, you want to try to make this trend work with you. And that's across all age groups, but certainly CareerWise high schoolers being one of those, but also looking at partnerships with community colleges and others for mid-career transitions that will meet the needs that you have in the workforce. We have one of the areas, of course, we highlight the workforce need happens to be the healthcare workforce, one of the most directly impacted from the pandemic and burned out, and tired, and record retirements. And bottom line is we need more nurses and EMTs and paramedics. One of the great apprenticeship programs through our community college system is you can actually work full-time and earn your nursing degree while you're doing that, getting credit for on-the-job work, and you're working as an EMT while you're getting your nursing degree. It's the first of its kind. I believe it's Arapahoe Community College is doing that, and we hope to see more of those kinds of programs across the way. Because the time, you know, this is, I see there's some colleges and community colleges in there too. It's no longer meeting people where they at to say, hey, you know, take 2 or 3 years off your career and come get a better degree. Or the model also used to be, hey, you can still work your day job, maybe in construction, Marty, while you get your degree. Now, you want to work in the field, you're going to get the degree while you're getting it. And those kinds of opportunities are win-wins because people get to the degree faster, but also are able to make an impact in that field from day one.
Thank you, Governor. Last question, Senator Bennet. A few weeks ago, you had checked in on me and we were having a conversation. And one of the things I shared with the Senator is how concerned I was with the division in the country. And how, certainly I believe the work I was doing at CareerWise was important, but the question really was, what else can I do? Because we need to come together. And how can I do more? And I was hoping you could share what you shared with me from that question and what that might mean to all of us.
I hope I remember what it was. Well, the one thing you said to me in that conversation, Noel, and I think this is important for all of you to know, is that Noel has transformed his workforce. Didn't you say that at Intersect? He's transformed his workforce. He has the same issues that everybody else in this room is confronting around workforce shortages. I mean, obviously he's in manufacturing, some of you are not, but it's the same challenge. And he's not sitting there with half-empty factory because he's been able to fill his workforce. But not only that, he's transformed it in the sense that it now reflects the community in which we all live. And I think if you think about that in its broadest terms, that is what's going to save us. I think that's what's going to save this democracy. Democracies do not last long if people don't see economic opportunity for themselves and their families. That's been true in the history of humanity going back to Roman times. It's been true. The minute you lose the sense of opportunity, that's when a strong person shows up and says, I alone can fix it. You don't need a democracy. You don't need the rule of law. Might makes right. Grab what you can for yourself and for your family. And when I say that I think this could transform the lives of millions of Americans, I mean it. I think it could, and transform the American economy and therefore sustain our democracy. We cannot, it's not enough. It is important for us to stand for freedom, but it's not enough. We have to stand for freedom and for opportunity. And for the kids I used to work for in the Denver Public Schools, too many of them don't see the opportunity in front of them. Too many people living in rural Colorado don't see the opportunity in front of them. But the difference it could make to be able to see that you could get a healthcare degree like the governor was talking about while you're working and while you're staying in a rural part of the state to work on healthcare at a moment when we've lost that opportunity, that could be transformational. Just to finish, when the secretary was talking about how that kid in high school is not thinking about a bank, they're not thinking about working in them. You know what they're thinking about? They're thinking about how freaking boring their math class is. That's what they're thinking about. And if you talk to the students here who are engaged in this program and are going to school less and going to work several days a week and to school a couple days a week, where they're able to integrate what they're learning in their private sector job or their public sector job with what they're learning in their school district, that is transformational. The difference between being somebody who's sitting in an incredibly boring math class and having exposure to what Lockheed Martin is doing to build missions to Mars, which I've seen, middle school students, that's the difference between, I think, our succeeding and failing. So I think this is in our hands. This isn't something that somebody else has to figure out for us. Everybody in this room can figure this out. And I think we'll not just transform the economy, I think we will dramatically strengthen our democracy. And that's what Noel Ginsburg's shop floor looks like to me, is the future of this country.
Thanks, Senator. And what I love about this panel is each of these leaders are genuine. That they do what they do because they want to make a difference in the world. And the way you just articulated, I think the reason you're here is not by accident. Yes, you were invited. But there's something that brings you to a meeting that says, maybe I can be part of the solution. And so you did remember, even if you didn't, exactly what you told me, but it's exactly what you said. What he said is 70% of the problem we face as a country can be solved if people have good jobs. It's the book you told me to read by Jim Clifton, Governor Hickenlooper years ago, that helped lead this. What the world wants is a good job. What apprenticeship does is it enables that, but in a really quality way, in a way that does transform lives. And you've heard that from apprentices today. You've heard it from top leadership in our country and in our state. The question then becomes, what are we going to do about it? Certainly, I wouldn't tell you that apprenticeship in your business is something that you just say, I'm going to do, turn a key, and then it works. Greg at T-Tech, you've been working on this. You know how hard this is. And yet, it's the stick-to-itiveness. It is the fighting through. It is the learning how to do it right. Sean, what you're doing. Chris Smith, the superintendent of Cherry Creek Schools. What you're doing around teacher apprenticeships can help solve the challenge we have in the state around teacher shortages, but it takes work. And it isn't just to turn the key. We need our higher ed system to be part of this solution. But most importantly, forget who said this, if we don't have the jobs, we don't have the opportunity. If we don't have the opportunity, we can't change our country. And it needs that. And good jobs help enable that. So with that spirit, we came up with the NextGen Pledge at CareerWise, the NextGen 5% Pledge. And what is that about, and how did it come about? Actually it was pre-pandemic, I guess, so it's 2.5 years ago, how quickly that time passed. Jamie Dimon, the CEO and chairman of the largest bank in the world, came to Colorado, went to Pinnacle Insurance, saw what they had done to create 5% of their workforce as apprentices. And later that evening, I had the opportunity to be with him where he was speaking to about 200 from his private client bank, of his customers. And he reflected back upon the morning and the challenges we face in this country, similar to really what you were saying. And he said, you know, if each of you in this audience would do what Pinnacle does and make 5% of your workforce use apprentices, we change this country. For JP Morgan Chase, that's 10,000. And currently New York is one of our fastest growing markets. So this is attainable. This isn't actually about a program. It's about changing how we think about workforce and opportunity in the state and ultimately in this country. So as we break in a few minutes, we have CareerWise staff, we have apprentices here, and please reach out to us. We will be happy to support you in your efforts. That's why we built our team, is to help make this easier. To learn what it takes, what Mark, you do and your team, Mark Tappy, you made the investment in building really a world-class. There's a reason people come to Colorado to learn this. It's because we're innovators. We have over 126, 130 employers here in Colorado that took on this challenge, that hired apprentices, not just as apprentices, but then went on to hire them as they graduated out. So the NextGen Pledge is not just words. It's really intended to catalyze change, and it starts with you. Whether you're a university, Janine, like Metro State University, which is frankly a really, I think, innovative institution just down the street. Joe, the community college system is so key to the future. It takes all of us. It's not some of us, it really will take all of us. So my hope is that you'll reach out to our staff, or we do have your name and your number, so we will be reaching out to you if you don't, to be a part of this movement. What was born in Colorado is actually having a national impact, and we need to move to scale. We have the leadership. You've heard from them, and they're extraordinary. And so are you. So please take the time to think about this, be intentional. And we're not saying if you have 10,000 employees, make 5% tomorrow. It could be within a department. It could be within a division. It could be within a bank branch. But set a goal. This isn't just a test. Mike, at your foundation, you took on apprentices. You were so articulate when you described what that looks like for you. Any business, literally, if you have employees, can benefit from this. Whether you're a high-tech business like Angie's, or Lockheed Martin, or a small company like Intertech Plastics. You can do this. We need you. You can help change our world. Thank you.
I would.
How are you?